Welcome back to Get Down to Business, the show about small business jobs and entrepreneurship. I'm thrilled to be joined by Ted Clark, businessman, entrepreneur, and investor with more than 40 years of experience as a senior executive in both public and private equity-owned specialty chemical companies. He now consults with business managers and acquisitions and growth strategies using private equity capital. He has a new book. It's called Shipping Clerk to CEO, The Power of Curiosity, Will, and Self-Directed Learning, which just came out. I'm thrilled to be joined again by Ted Clark. Ted, welcome to the program.
Thanks, Shalom. Great to be here.
It's great to have you. So with that title, Shipping Clerk to CEO, let's start with the beginning of that story. 40 plus years ago, that's indeed what you were, an entry-level shipping clerk. I'm curious to hear about that background and how it led to your rise as CEO. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. Yeah. No. I started as a shipping clerk. As a 19-year-old, I was just looking for a job. No expectation of a career at that point. But I found that when I started doing the work, it was interesting, and I just wanted to learn more. And the book's really about sort of finding and building networks and mentors. Particularly when you don't have, I didn't have a college education, so it was really starting at the bottom, and really everything I learned about business, I learned at the business that I was working at. And then also with I referenced self-directed learning. I spent a lot of time, once I got interested in something, sort of teaching it to myself one way or the other, in a way just to get to the next step, right? Just to get to the next opportunity. Again, I had no idea that 22 years later I'd be the CEO of the same company that I started as a shipping clerk. And the book's really about that journey taken in steps.
That's amazing. So again, the book is called Shipping Clerk to CEO, The Power of Curiosity, Will, and Self-Directed Learning. So I've got a lot of questions for you because as we know, career success doesn't always depend on prior experience, a college degree, or inside connections. Again, it's quite a bit of background and quite a rise from an entry-level position to the CEO of Product Research and Chemical Corporation, known as PRC for short. So if you don't mind, let's talk a little bit about vision, strategy, and tactics that you've used. Why do those things, vision, strategy, and tactics, why should it be used at any level to drive success?
Yeah, so, when I started reflecting on how I did it, right? So that one of the reasons I wrote the book is that a lot of people say, well, how did you actually do that, right? And one of the things that is pretty clear at every step of the way is that at each job I would get good at it. I'd get the sort of the table stakes worked out, how to be confident at what I was supposed to be doing. But then I always began to sort of envision making the work more interesting for myself initially. I just wanted to make it a less boring job, as an example, early on. And then find ways to improve things, right? So it sort of began with this idea of envisioning how the job could be different, and then beginning to develop some internal objectives of what I wanted to try and accomplish, and then sort of developing a strategy how to get there, how to do it, and then certain tactics to be able to execute on that vision, right? So the way I think about it is, I took these steps in bites, right? So I would get, for instance, I was in a shipping clerk job, made an impression on the people in customer service. I was invited to go to customer service, promoted into that job, and then I started to figure out how I could make that job better, right? So at each step of the way, I tried to envision how I could improve things, set objectives so that I could judge for myself whether I was getting there or not, and then developing sort of strategy and tactics. And when I talk to people now that I mentor, it's like, you can think like a CEO at any level in any job, as long as you think about vision, objective, strategy, and tactics.
Absolutely, absolutely. But it's one thing to talk about those tactics, but certainly when you are that underdog, and I mean this with all due respect, as a entry-level shipping clerk, with the way you started, it's challenging to have that confidence to really work your way up, certainly all the way to CEO. Not everybody will do that. To manage people that are older than you, what are some of the practical tips that you've experienced along the way? And I'm sure it's come with some challenges and maybe some mistakes along the way, but how can an underdog succeed?
Yeah, well, I think the first thing is, you have to really be doing it to improve the company, right? So you have to really think about, your objectives being to improve the work that you're doing so people recognize you, right? So that's sort of what I always try to talk to people about is, don't think about yourself. Think about what you're trying to do, how you're trying to improve it. Think about the relationships you're making. And if you're really working hard and you're showing some initiative, people will forgive you for mistakes, right? So it's just sort of a positive intent kind of approach, right? Where if you have a positive intent and you're doing good work, you're communicating with people so that they don't think you're sort of a complete rogue person. I've found that you build trust that way, and people will give you the opportunity to do things, and you'll get more forgiveness if you make a mistake, and also many times you'll not just get forgiveness, but you'll get coaching, right? So that's really what you're looking for. You want to have people help coach you to become a better and better employee.
Absolutely, absolutely. So again, I'm chatting with Ted Clark, the author of Shipping Clerk to CEO: The Power of Curiosity, Will, and Self-Directed Learning. Ted certainly has quite a story in starting as an entry-level shipping clerk to his rise at 42 years old to CEO, and certainly it's a fascinating story. I know you can learn more at shippingclerktoceo.com. But on that note, we have to squeeze in a very quick break here on the show all about small business jobs and entrepreneurship. When we return, we're going to continue our conversation, talk a little bit about the importance of sales in every position. We're going to talk about that level of confidence and actually talking about power walking a little bit too. You're listening to Get Down to Business. You don't want to touch the dial. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Get Down to Business, the show all about small business jobs and entrepreneurship. You can get on my website, shalomklein.com. That's where you can download the podcasts of the past 8+ years with some fascinating conversations with hundreds of entrepreneurs like our guest right now, Ted Clark, who has written the book Shipping Clerk, CEO: The Power of Curiosity, Will, and Self-Directed Learning. Came out just in March of this year, and it chronicles his journey from an inexperienced high school graduate starting as an entry-level shipping clerk to his rise at 42 years old to CEO, and some of the things that he's learned along the way. Ted, welcome back.
Great.
It's great to have you. So, I know something that you talk about frequently in your book is how we are all salesmen. Kind of hard to imagine for that IT person that's sitting in the downstairs cubicle, how he's in sales and how he needs to use that to his advantage. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure, yeah, and honestly, in this day and age, it's probably most important for the IT person to be a good salesperson. If you think about it, I was trained in sales through an approach called need satisfaction selling, right? So it's really about more about listening than talking, right? So you're spending time with potential customers or internally with stakeholders that you're working with, trying to understand what they're trying to accomplish, and then trying to figure out how you can help them accomplish their goals, right? So this sort of need satisfaction approach to selling is sometimes called consultative selling. Um, but I've used it once I learned how to do it, it opened something in my mind, and I think it's one of the major reasons I was able to accomplish what I did. Um, because it kind of reinforces this idea of networking, listening, being out there, trying to understand what what's required, to improve the business or to help somebody else improve their part of the business, um, and 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 being able to influence things, right? So if you're the IT guy and you're trying to digitize your company, it's important for you to be able to really understand what your company's goals and objectives are, and then how do you apply, you know, good IT approaches to that, and then how do you sell it, right? Because everybody competes for everybody else's time, right? And so having an influential way to get people to buy into your ideas. It requires good selling skills, and selling is, in my view, you're one of the most noble things you can do, right? Because it's how you change things, not just leave things at sort of the status quo, right?
Sure,
Um,
absolutely.
so
And in
yeah,
our remaining minute over here, I am curious. You talk about the power walk in your book, and again, people can interpret that as they wish, but you talk about how a power walk can actually revolutionize your work presence. I equate not just for employees, but also for business owners as well. What do you mean by that?
yeah. So you know, it's all about connections, right? So I think sometimes in the kind of modern business world, where everybody's on the computer, you're kind of communicating in that way, and it's different to get out and walk and talk and see people in their work environments and spend a few minutes talking to them about what their challenges are and what they're doing. And then also in my case, when I was doing it initially, it was really to find out information, right? So get out to the source where the information is, find it, and then use it. And so being out there, being seen, connecting with people, is just important, in my opinion today, as it was 45 some odd years ago when I started as a shipping clerk.
That's great. That's great. Well, we're running out of time, Ted, and I want to make sure our listeners know how they can get in touch with you and pick up a copy of your book. Can you share your website one more time?
Sure. They can go to www.tedclarkauthor.com, or they can go to www.shippingclerktoceo.com. And the author page has lots of articles and other information, a lot of stuff on
Awesome.
mentoring. So yeah, appreciate
I
that.
encourage all of our listeners to check it out, tedclarkauthor.com, shippingclerktoceo.com. Thank you so much, Ted Clark. That's a wrap for us here and Get Down to Business to Success. We'll talk to you next Sunday at 6 p.m. right here on AM 560 The Answer.